In the last 16 years, I've lived in 9 apartments across Singapore, Germany, and now Thailand. If you plan to make Thailand your new home and are looking into renting, then you need to watch this video. I'll share the essential tips and tricks I've learned so you'll know exactly what to consider when hunting for a place to rent. Let's get to it. When it comes to choosing the right location, there are 4 things you might want to consider. Thailand is a tropical country, which means it's not just about sunny beach days. First up, the burning season. Particularly in northern Thailand, around Chiang Mai and Chiang Rai, farmers burn their fields from January to March to prepare for the next harvest. This can cause significant air pollution with smog levels that can affect your health. So, if you have respiratory issues or simply value clean air, you might want to consider your timing or choose a location less affected by the seasonal issue. Now, let's talk about the monsoon season, which is typically from July to October. Heavy rains are a given, and with them, the risk of flooding. When you're looking for a place to rent, check the history of the area. Has it flooded before? How does the drainage system hold up during heavy rains? These are questions you'll want to ask. Also, you might want to avoid renting on the ground floor or low-level areas. If not flood, you might get a visit from the local cockroaches, not to mention the stench from the sewage, especially in Bangkok. Most people move to Thailand to live the island life, but you also want to ensure that the area offers more than just the white sand and blue waters, especially if you're planning to stay there long-term. What about amenities, communities, transportation options, and even opportunities? Rural areas may be abundant in many things, but they sure are lacking in some aspects compared to the big cities. If you value peace and quiet, especially at night, avoid renting units facing or near a street, especially in big cities like Bangkok. I stayed in 3 different buildings in 3 different areas here in Bangkok, and unfortunately, the noise insulation is not that good. Think about what's more important to you, proximity to nightclubs or a good night's sleep. A lot of my viewers are from the age of 55, so I'm going to mention access to healthcare. When looking for a place to rent, consider access to healthcare facilities and services you might need. Are in-home care services and medical support available in the area? What about health insurance coverage? Also, if you do use a wheelchair, you should check if the building is wheelchair accessible because not all are. There might be other things that you should think about that you wouldn't normally consider back in your home country. Being mindful of even the smallest things can help make your stay in a foreign country a lot more convenient. There are different types of accommodations in Thailand, and they can range from basic to luxury. Apartments and condos are the most common in urban areas like Bangkok, Chiang Mai, and Pattaya. They're usually in prime locations with easy access to transport, shopping, and entertainment. Plus, you get amenities like pools, gyms, and 24-hour security, and sometimes even a sauna. You'll find a range of options from a studio unit to a luxury penthouse, so you'll definitely find something suitable for your budget. Do note that Thai apartments and condos are less spacious than Western standards. A 25 square meter 1-bedroom and a 40 square meter 2-bedroom condo units are considered normal. Also, maintenance and repairs are typically handled by the building management, so these are a great option if you want convenience and security. Here are some tips. Always check the building's rules and regulations, especially regarding pets and noise. If possible, visit the place at different times to gauge noise levels and neighborhood vibes, especially if it's next to a street with a lot of traffic. As I mentioned earlier, the noise insulations here are not very good. For those who need more space or prefer a quieter setting, houses and villas are a great choice. These are standalone structures, often with their own yard or garden, offering you great privacy and more freedom to customize and make changes to the property. They typically come with a higher price tag compared to apartments and condos. You will also shoulder maintenance responsibilities, which might be challenging if you don't know the language. Now for some tips. Consider the commute in relation to your daily needs or if you frequently visit the city. As they are often located further from city centers, this might necessitate owning a vehicle. Also, check the property's flood history, especially in the rainy season. If you are looking for a blend of apartment living and hotel service, serviced apartments are a great option. They have flexible leasing options from a few days to several months. They come fully furnished with all the necessary appliances and utilities, as well as services like cleaning, laundry, and sometimes even room service. Naturally, they are more expensive than the traditional apartments due to the included services and can feel more like a hotel than a home. Here's a tip. Check what services are included and what you're actually paying for. You can find Airbnbs in Thailand, but there's a legal gray area surrounding them. Officially, Thai law requires that properties rented out for less than 30 days must have a hotel license. However, many properties listed on Airbnb and similar platforms are operated without such licenses. Enforcement of this law has been inconsistent, with some property owners facing fines while many others operate without issue. As a renter, you're unlikely to face legal repercussions, but there's always a risk that your booking would be cancelled if the property is suddenly subjected to enforcement action. It's also wise to check the condominium's rules if you're renting a condo unit. There have been cases where guests are prohibited from accessing the amenities like pools and gyms. And of course, there are hotels. They operate like any other hotel in the world. In Thailand, you'll find furnished, partially furnished, and unfurnished rental options. The typical furnishings included in rental units can vary depending on the type of accommodation and the rental price. However, most furnished rental units, especially in urban areas, tend to include basic items like a bed with a mattress, wardrobe or closet, sofa, TV set, but there are some units that don't include a TV. Dining tables and chairs are usually provided, and kitchen appliances such as refrigerator, cooking hob, microwave, and sometimes basic cooking utensils and cutlery in some units. Some bathroom essentials like water heater for the shower and sometimes shower curtain if applicable will be included as well. Other additional items are an air conditioning unit, curtains or window blinds, and a washing machine, usually without a dryer. Here are some tips. When viewing, be mindful of what's included and not included in the unit. If you found a furnished place but there's a piece you dislike, talk to the landlord before you sign the lease. They might be willing to remove it for you. The same goes for missing essentials. Landlords might be willing to add them at no additional cost. If not, be sure that you can easily find alternatives that won't end up costing you more money or time. For example, if the washing machine does not have a dryer, which is typically the case, you might want to have a balcony or an outdoor area to dry your clothes. The average rental prices and costs vary wildly depending on the property's location, size, and level of luxury. Rental prices also fluctuate based on the current demand. However, no matter what your budget is, you can be sure to find something for you from 10,000 baht a month to 100,000 baht a month. I'll be breaking down the type of costs involved when renting in Thailand. While I can't specify the exact price for each cost, this breakdown should help you manage your expectations. Consider it a checklist of what to discuss with the real estate agent and the landlord before signing the rental contract. Most landlords require a security deposit equivalent to 1 or 2 months' rent, which is paid upfront and refundable at the end of your lease, assuming there are no damages to the property. It's also common to pay the first month's rent in advance, so when you move in, you'll typically pay 2 to 3 months worth of rent upfront. That's first month's rent plus the security deposit. Electricity, water, and internet are usually not included in the rent. Electricity can be costly, especially if you use air conditioning frequently. Be prepared for higher electricity bills, especially during the hot season. Some rental units already include internet and cable TV, some don't. In either case, ask which service providers are available in the building and see if they offer packages according to your needs. What I like about the billing system here is that bills arrive at the end of each monthly billing period with the exact meter readings. This eliminates any guesswork about consumption, making budgeting much easier. Unlike in Germany, where you often have to wait until the end of the following year to know exactly how much you should have paid. When renting a condo or serviced apartment, you'll probably have a maintenance fee. This covers the upkeep of shared facilities like pools, gyms, and common areas. In some cases, it is already included in your rent. Some rentals, especially houses, may require you to pay for maintenance services like gardening or pool cleaning. In serviced apartments, you might also have additional charges for services like laundry or housekeeping. In Thailand, the responsibility for air conditioning maintenance, including cleaning, can vary depending on the rental agreement. In some cases, landlords take responsibility for the maintenance of air conditioning units. In other cases, particularly in long-term leases, the tenant might be responsible for the upkeep of appliances, including air conditioning units. So be sure to review the lease agreement carefully. If the contract doesn't specify who is responsible for air conditioning maintenance, clarify it with the landlord before signing the contract. If you have a vehicle, some buildings charge for parking spaces. In some areas, there might be a small fee for garbage disposal. If you have pets, there might be additional fees like pet annual fees and deposits. If you want to terminate the contract before it ends, you will most likely have to pay a termination fee. This is typically your security deposit. You might be able to offer to find a tenant to continue your lease if you have a valid reason, but in any case, make sure that there's a clause in the lease agreement covering this section. Obviously, this isn't an exhaustive list, and additional expenses vary based on so many factors. So to be on the safer side, have some extra budget to cover unexpected costs, especially for the first few months of your stay. In Thailand, there are several ways people can find rental units. Websites like Didi Property, HipFlat, Fazwas, and Thailand Property list a wide range of rental properties across Thailand. They often have filters to help you narrow down your research based on location, price, type of property, and more. Do note that some of the listings on these websites may already be taken. In my experience, all of the units I wanted to view were long gone. I assumed they were left there to serve as clickbait. Nevertheless, the agents will contact you, and this is when they ask for your budget and preferences. The landlord pays them a commission if they manage to get you to sign the rental contract, which is usually equivalent to 1 month's rent per 1-year term. This is why some agents prefer to show you units with a premium price and urge you to rent for at least 1 year. For the same reason, some of them may not return your inquiry if you have a budget in the lower range. But don't be discouraged. You can counter this by messaging multiple real estate agents from these websites so you have more options. And this is exactly what I did. Another way is to visit the project building you are interested in and ask the building manager if they have available units. The advantage of doing this yourself is you might be able to ask for a lower rental price since you would be applying directly to the landlord. If you can't speak Thai, just type what you need to say using the Google Translate app. Show it to the guard and they will direct you to the juristic office or whoever manages the building. If they don't have the right details on hand, leave your contact info and ask them to message you should a unit becomes available. Use these online property websites to scout which properties you want to visit. The listings usually include details of the building like the list of facilities, building policies, bed policies, nearby surroundings, and other features. There are also Facebook groups, expat forums, and community boards that often have rental listings and advice from other expats. You can post your inquiries there. To find Facebook groups, you can try searching for the name of the area plus the word rental in the search box. Then filter it by groups and then public groups. I suggest joining large groups as these often indicate more trust. Still, please be wary of scammers. I'll give more tips on this later. By the way, if you're liking this video so far, please consider hitting that like button. Moving on. When reviewing lease agreements in Thailand, it's important to pay close attention to certain clauses and terms beyond the standard ones. Look for clauses that specify if and when rent can be increased, and by how much. This is especially important if you're renting long-term. In the event that you fail to pay the rental or utility fees within their due date, find out what the penalties are. In my case, there's a fine of 500 baht per day. Understand who is responsible for maintenance and repairs. This can vary depending on the type of the property, so it should be clearly outlined in the lease. If you are responsible for the maintenance and repairs, I highly suggest not to skip them because they could get worse and might cost you more in the end. If you plan on leaving the unit for a longer period, say when you're traveling, you might think of subletting it. If so, be sure to check if you are allowed to sublet the property or not. Find out if the lease renews automatically. If not, then understand the terms for renewal. Understand the conditions under which the lease can be terminated by either party. Typically, if the lease is terminated due to a breach of contract on your part, you may forfeit your security deposit. So always review these terms carefully to avoid any misunderstandings. An inventory list of items and their condition should be included to avoid disputes over damages or missing items during the handover. I always make sure to check for any existing damages before or on the move-in date, and if I find any, I take photos as evidence and promptly send them to the landlord. Ensure the list is provided in English version if you're not fluent in Thai to avoid any misunderstandings. My rental contract here in Bangkok was in English and just 6 pages long with very easy to understand terms and conditions. In contrast, my rental contracts in Germany were always like 1,000 pages long, available only in German, and filled with complex terms that even Google Translate couldn't simplify. In Thailand, rental negotiation is a normal part of the rental process. Just be polite and respectful and stay within reason whether you are in touch with the real estate agent or the landlord. Aggressive bargaining can be seen as rude and might not yield a positive result. You can often negotiate the monthly rent, especially if you're committing to a longer lease or if the property has been vacant for a while. While 1-year leases are standard, you might prefer a shorter or longer term. Landlords are sometimes open to a different duration if it aligns with their plans. If the property is furnished, you might negotiate which items to keep or remove. Conversely, you can ask for additional items if the property is lacking essentials. Once you've agreed on terms, make sure everything is clearly written in the lease agreement. Any verbal agreements should be included in the written contract to avoid future disputes. And if possible, ask a lawyer or a trusted Thai-speaking friend to help you review the contract before you sign it, ensuring all negotiated terms are accurately reflected. When you're looking to rent in Thailand, be careful about how you pay and watch out for scams. Some common tricks include fake ads for places that don't exist, people pretending to be landlords to take your deposit, images used in the listings that don't match the current state of the unit, and landlords asking for really high deposits they never plan to give back. To avoid these problems, always check out the place in person or ask someone you trust to do it for you. If you're abroad, ask a local friend or a reputable agent to inspect the property on your behalf. Make sure that the person you're dealing with is the real landlord and has the right to rent the place. Ask for identification and proof of ownership or the right to rent out the property. It's best to work with well-known rental agencies or websites that have good reviews. If you're being rushed into making a payment or decision, consider that a red flag. Take your time to verify all the details. Don't let anyone rush you into paying or signing anything. While paying in cash is common in Thailand, it's not ideal for large payments like security deposits and rent because there's no proof you paid. It's best to transfer the money through a bank so there's an online record of it, meaning it's traceable. Typically, the payment details are included in the lease agreement, so make sure that you are sending your payment to the right bank account. If you want to be extra safe, especially if you're paying near or over 6 digits, ask for an official receipt for any payments you made, preferably with the company's or landlord's stamp. If you want to make your stay in Thailand more convenient and cost-effective, then watch this video next. I covered 20 apps that you can use regardless if you're staying here short-term or long-term. If you want more content about Thailand and living abroad in general, then don't forget to subscribe. As usual, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. Have a wonderful day.